Today, we will look at the structure of the Necron society and forces. In their mortal existence, the Necrontyr civilization was marked by strict adherence to protocol and hierarchy, ruled by nobles with absolute authority. This rigid structure became even more entrenched as the Necrontyr transitioned from flesh to machine, resulting in an even more complex and stratified Necron society than the one that previously dominated the galaxy. Every Necron is affiliated with a royal dynasty, one of the grand houses from the ancient Necrontyr Empire. Whereas allegiance to a dynasty was once a matter of family heritage and tradition, it is now firmly established through conquest and programming. Despite sharing common customs and loyalties, individual Necron nobles are highly independent and rarely exhibit a unified purpose beyond that imposed by their superiors. Consequently, while neighboring worlds might be aligned with the same royal dynasty, their actions and objectives are driven by the personal goals and whims of each Necron overlord or lord, rather than the broader traditions of their dynasty. Prior to the arrival of the C'tan, there were hundreds of Necrontyr dynasties, ranging from powerful political and military entities to weakened remnants of once great houses. The Wars of Secession, the rebellion against biotransference, the C'tan, the War in Heaven, and the Great Sleep resulted in the destruction of countless dynasties. Today, only a few hundred or possibly 1,000 remain. Among the surviving dynasties are recognized as the most powerful by the Imperium of Man. The highest-ranking Necron nobles are the Pharaons, who rule entire dynasties and numerous planetary systems. Beneath them are the Necron overlords, who govern clusters of tomb worlds within their Pharaon's domain. Below the overlords are the Necron lords, responsible for maintaining a single core or fringe world of their dynasty. The titles of these high-ranking Necron nobles are consistent across all dynasties, reflecting long-standing tradition. However, the titles of subordinate nobles and functionaries, which make up advisory councils and specialist groups, vary widely. Despite the vast and diverse nature of the Necron dynasties, their army and fleet structures remain unchanged. For instance, the title of Nemesaur is assigned to the overall commander of a battlefield or campaign, akin to a human general or admiral. This uniform command structure facilitates coordination among Necron armies from different stars, ensuring their efficiency remains intact. The transition of Imhotep, the Stormlord from Nemesaur, to Pharaon of the Sautek dynasty illustrates the seamless nature of this command system. Titles such as Graves, Vimarchs and Thantars denote lower-tier Necron nobles, with rank and responsibilities being almost identical across dynasties. Many titles are hereditary, dating back to the Necrontyr's earliest days, while others were created later to reward nobles of lower rank for their service. As the Necrontyr's domain expanded, the scope of titles grew increasingly complex, with each dynasty developing elaborate titles to reflect its traditions. Often the grandeur or verbosity of a title is a way to mask a lower status. This complexity becomes even more pronounced when a pharaon from one dynasty assumes control over a world belonging to another. The resulting protocols are exceedingly intricate, though the Necron nobility view them as just another way to pass eternity. If a pharaon is deposed or destroyed, their successor may require all ranks to be adjusted to align with their own dynasty's traditions. Such changes must be made with certainty of the new pharaon's position, as challenging established customs can provoke discontent within their court. Each pharaon and overlord is supported by a royal court, which aids in managing tomb worlds and conducting military campaigns. These courts include Necron lords, cryptex, and, in the courts of pharaons and overlords, individuals bound by oaths or family ties. Although the Necrons have long since shed their flesh, blood ties remain as significant as ever. Each Necron lord maintains their own court, with only the lowest-ranking nobles lacking a formal court. However, even these lower-ranked nobles will have a circle of untitled advisors, albeit often of limited intellect. In the ongoing struggle for status and adherence to protocol, even a poorly staffed court is valued more than none at all. The size of a dynasty's royal court plays a crucial role not only in determining political status and prestige, but also in defining a Necron noble's military command. A larger royal court signifies higher seniority and commands more troops. Even a Necron noble without a royal court still oversees a legion of Necron warriors, several phalanxes of Immortals and Deathmarks, and a phalanx of Lichguard. In addition to these, there are forces not tied to any specific dynasty. Triarch Praetorians, the remaining agents of the ancient Triarch ruling council, will ally with any Nemesaur they believe will advance the dynasty's interests. Nihilistic Necron destroyers can be enticed into battle with promises of destruction and carnage, while cryptechs may be retained through acts of favor. Few Necron nobles actively seek the aid of the devolved Flayed Ones, though these charnel creatures often appear at Necron battles on their own, making this reluctance somewhat irrelevant. A noble's position within a dynasty's hierarchy directly influences the number and quality of troops under their command. Additionally, a high-ranking noble indirectly commands all forces under the members of their royal court, who themselves have authority over their subordinates. Given that even the smallest tomb worlds have at least 20 nobles of lower rank, an overlord typically has access to at least 100 legions of Necron warriors if needed. All Necrons, whether noble or common-born, are united by the emblem of the ancient Necrontyr Empire, the Ankh of the Triarch. Each royal dynasty also has its own unique glyph. With designs that have remained unchanged over millennia. Necron nobles display their dynasty's glyph on their death masks, cloaks, or sometimes as a stylized detail on personal weaponry or symbols of office. The most arrogant nobles might even feature their glyph on their breastplate in place of the Ankh of the Triarch, a gesture that defies tradition and protocol. Only the highest-ranking nobles are allowed to display their dynasty's glyph in its complete form. Nobles of lower rank carry only parts of the glyph, signifying their position within the royal dynasty's hierarchy. A few nobles do not bear a glyph at all. Some come from royal dynasties that were destroyed during the War in Heaven, while others have been stripped of rank and status for past transgressions. Such nobles are regarded as untrustworthy, with treachery either having occurred or anticipated. Dynastic glyphs are exclusive to Necron nobles. Common soldiers like Necron warriors and Immortals are generally seen as interchangeable by their noble masters, and are not directly associated with a specific dynasty. However, their necrodermis death masks and armor sometimes reflect ancient Necrontyr heraldry, hinting at their allegiance. In contrast, Necron war engines, such as monoliths and doomsday arcs, are often adorned with dynastic glyphs. These war engines are considered personal weapons of specific nobles and thus hold higher status than the Necron warriors who crew them. For many intelligent species scattered throughout the galaxy, the reawakened Necrons are merely one of numerous threats lurking in the vast expanse between the stars. Even within the Imperium of Man, the Necrons are poorly understood, with only a select few fully grasping the immense danger they pose to humanity's control over the galaxy. Just as Necron society is meticulously hierarchical, so too are their tomb worlds. The most significant among these are the Crown Worlds, the oldest and most esteemed planets held by the Necrons, from which their dynasties and planetary clusters are administered. In ancient times, Crown Worlds served as power hubs, supported by tithes and tributes from other parts of their ruling dynasty's territories. Their vast resources allowed them to build the most reliable stasis crypts for their inhabitants. Consequently, those who have remained in stasis on Crown Worlds for millennia, untouched by external threats, are in remarkably good condition. The loss of a Crown World to a galactic disaster, however, remains a profound tragedy for the Necron race. Next in importance are the Core Worlds, which form the central regions of a dynasty's interstellar domain. The rulers of Core Worlds are typically closely related to the regent of their dynasty's Crown World, ensuring a strong dynastic loyalty between the often diverse planets. Though not as grand or powerful as Crown Worlds, Core Worlds were formidable in their prime and remain so in the 41st millennium, barring any significant disaster. Necron fringe worlds are of lesser importance to their ruling dynasties and are not considered on par with the Core Worlds. Often, these fringe worlds were poor or remote colonies that contributed little more than manual labor or served as penal sites. Some fringe worlds were once core worlds of different dynasties, but have been conquered or absorbed into their current rulers' domains, thereby losing their status. There is no typical Necron tomb world. Each one operates under the will of its noble ruler, with their preferences influencing everything from military strategies to architectural styles and titles. Nevertheless, all tomb worlds share a common objective: to restore the ancient Necron dynasties and reclaim their position of dominance over the galaxy. The tomb worlds mentioned below are just a fraction of the many millions scattered across the galaxy. Each revived world has its own peculiarities, and their number is continually increasing. It is uncertain how many human outposts are unknowingly situated on planets once claimed by the ancient Necron civilization, with their inhabitants oblivious to the dormant horrors beneath their worlds. In this era of Necron reawakening, no world in the galaxy can be considered secure. Mandragora, a pivotal world for the Necron armies on the galaxy's eastern rim, was a critical hub during the War in Heaven. Mandragora's stasis crypts were filled to capacity with some of the finest Necron warriors and remained intact and secure during the Great Sleep. Upon emerging from hibernation, Mandragora was not only fully operational, but also commanded vast Necron legions, a situation that Imhotep the Stormlord, the new Pharaon, swiftly capitalized on. He reactivated Mandragora's dolmen gates and launched forces to reclaim core worlds from the Orc hordes led by warboss Snagratooth. With the Orcs either driven away or destroyed, the reclaimed tomb worlds were awakened, further strengthening Imhotep's forces. Since then, Mandragora's armies have posed a growing threat on the Imperium's eastern borders. Gaiden, the crown world with a critical dimensional stabilizer malfunction, is half-phased into a pocket dimension for most of its orbit. Initially seen as a disaster, this phenomenon has turned into an advantage, making Gaiden nearly impervious to attacks. Beneath Gaiden's surface lies the Oracle Chamber, housing the bulbous head of an ancient alien prophet kept alive through stasis field technology and temporal stabilizers. The prophet's thoughts are projected as complex holograms, theoretically showing future events. However, the prophet's constant resistance and attempts to mislead make the images unreliable. Thanatos, a hollow planet, harbors one of the galaxy's greatest treasures, the celestial orrery. Created by the Oroscar dynasty's artisans before the War in Heaven, this intricate web of holograms and living metal is invaluable for its artistic merit alone. Yet, the celestial orrery is more than a mere ornament. The glowing lights within its matrix represent every star in the galaxy. Destroying one of these lights will cause its real-world counterpart to go supernova far ahead of its natural time, resulting in cataclysmic destruction for nearby worlds. However, such actions disrupt the galaxy's fundamental forces, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction that requires meticulous and long-term management to restore balance. Given this immense power, the royal court of Thanatos avoids reckless displays. They view themselves as stewards of creation, using the orrery sparingly to maintain balance in the galaxy. Unfortunately, this restraint is not universally respected. Continuous warfare rages across Thanatos' barren landscapes and skies as the Oroscar dynasty's armies strive to keep the celestial orrery from falling into the hands of other Necron dynasties and alien forces. In the extreme northeastern quadrant of the galaxy lies the ominous region known as the Ghoul stars. On these worlds, illuminated by the feeble light of dying stars, one encounters beings straight out of primal nightmares. Scythor fiends, Toggeran bloodreeks, and other entities so alien they seem almost supernatural. Yet, even among these horrors, one stands out above all: the Bone Kingdom of Drazak. Drazak is a world plagued by the Flayed Ones, cursed Necrons, afflicted by a ghastly disease that drives them to a ravenous craving for organic flesh. These creatures wander the desolate streets of Drazak, fighting over scraps of decaying meat and shards of bone, driven mad by their insatiable hunger. The only Necron on Drazak unaffected by the Flarevirus's madness is Valgul, the Fallen Lord. From his throne made of shattered bone and tanned hide, Valgul maintains what little order he can in this kingdom of decay, his lone good eye ever focused on keeping some semblance of control. Though Valgul appears immune to the madness that has overtaken his people, One must question why a truly sane individual would choose to reside among the gibbering flayed ones. It could be a sense of duty or a different, more subtle form of personal madness that drives him. Valgul's rule is not based on reason, given the nature of his subjects, that would be laughable, but on his ability to provide the gruesome sustenance his subjects crave. Every few months, when the supply of meat runs low, either due to decomposition or because it has been fought over until it is no longer recognizable, Valgul declares a new time of bounty and dispatches Drazak's fleets to raid nearby worlds. These raiders from Drazak do not seek wealth or traditional plunder, only red harvests of blood and gore. Although Trantis is technically a tomb world, it functions more as a Necron fringe world, orbiting the far larger and resource-rich imperial world of Mandal. Since their revival, the Necrons of Trantis have become a terror for Mandal's human farming and mining settlements. Operating mostly under the cover of darkness, low-flying night scythes drop small raiding parties to pillage and plunder. Entire human settlements can be overwhelmed and harvested in a single night, leaving behind only large, barren craters where communities once thrived. The vast distances between Mandal's communes mean that days can pass before a disappearance is noticed, and assistance is often too far away to be effective. As night falls, Mandal's inhabitants have learned to dread the onset of darkness. Curfews are enforced, blast doors sealed, and sentries posted. Nevertheless, human settlements continue to vanish without warning or trace. Ironically, Trantis was originally intended as a Necron way station for resources and raw materials, designed to handle only a fraction of the plunder from the planet below and to ship the excess to other nearby core worlds. However, since the Great Sleep, Trantis's portion of the webway has become isolated from all others, cutting it off from the Necron worlds it once supplied via a dolmen gate. As a result, Trantis is gradually inundated with plundered resources it cannot fully utilize, yet the raids on Mandal persist. In the final stages of the War in Heaven, one of its most significant battles took place above Zapenek, the crown world of the Sarnek dynasty. The royal fleet of Zapenek fought valiantly against an immense Eldari assault. Though the battle was brief, it was fiercely fought. While the Eldari retreated, leaving the planet itself unharmed, the surrounding orbit became choked with the wreckage of once proud fleets. The Great Sleep descended so quickly that the Necrons of Zapenek had no opportunity to clear the debris from their skies. Consequently, they entered hibernation with their planet obscured by a swirling mass of wraithbone and necrodermis wreckage. This state persisted until the 41st millennium, when the Sarnek dynasty's most notorious outcast, the self-styled pirate king Thazar the Invincible, returned. Exiled to Athornos, the tomb world where he had been banished, Thazar, driven by an unknown urge, returned to Zapenek. Discovering the planet's inhabitants still in hibernation, he managed to infiltrate the tomb world's master control system, the Tomb Mind. In no time, Thazar convinced the Tomb Mind that he, Thazar the Invincible, was the rightful pharaoh of the Sarnek dynasty. He ordered this updated status to be encoded into the minds of the dormant Necrons, making him their ruler and those who had exiled him his servants. Under Thazar's command, the once noble crown world of the Sarnek dynasty has been transformed into the Reave world. Surrounded by a veil of orbital wreckage, Thazar has all the raw materials needed to build a Necron pirate fleet of unprecedented scale, and the reprogrammed Necrons of Zapenek serve as loyal crews and captains. Thazar's ships have already begun to traverse both the webway and real space, and the galaxy will soon rue the day he awoke, when electromagnetic radiation storms ravaged the tomb world of Sarkon. They obliterated the memory engrams of all Necrons within its stasis tombs. With its inhabitants rendered mindless, the tomb mind of Sarkon assumed control over their living metal bodies. Unaware that its own logic systems had been compromised by the radiation, the tomb mind saw the tranquility it had imposed on Sarkon and sought to impose the same order on other worlds far beyond. Examining its databases, the tomb mind dispatched its mindless Necron legions known as the Severed to invade Takarak, a nearby slumbering tomb world. Takarak's defences were swiftly overrun, and the so-called Sarkoni Emperor, as the deranged Sarkoni tomb mind now saw itself, eradicated the minds of Takarak's dormant inhabitants, claiming their bodies for itself. By the year 967 of the 41st millennium, the Sarkoni Emperor had conquered 3 additional tomb worlds in a similar fashion and began extending its influence to non-Necron worlds, using mind-shackle scarabs to bring any rebellious organic beings under its direct control, just like its severed servants. The Necron nobles of the Nechthys dynasty were renowned for their cunning, and their crown world, Moebius, remains a testament to their deceptive nature. The extra-dimensional hyperspace corridors connecting Moebius's many crypts form an ever-shifting labyrinth, ensuring that each journey through the catacombs is unique, a fact learned at great cost by at least one Deathwatch kill team. In ancient times, Sidon was at the heart of Necrontyr expansion. From this core world, Stardox, 60 million years ago, the first Necrontyr antimatter-fueled torch ships embarked on voyages beyond Necrontyr space. During the War in Heaven, Sidon's wharves continued their trade, dispatching expeditionary forces to seek new worlds to conquer. Every 33 solar weeks, a massive stasis ship would depart from Sidon's dockyards, transporting a legion of immortals to distant planets. When the Great Sleep ended and Sidon reactivated, its rulers chose to persist with their mission of conquest. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to the Tomb World's Necron overlord, Sidon's Tomb Mind Master program had suffered corruption during the Great Sleep, causing many records to be destroyed or altered. Now, the great ships no longer set courses to intersect planetary systems. Instead, they are launched on random trajectories, leading them potentially into stars, Tyranid hive fleets, or even safe landings. Since the Necron nobility of Sidon do not query the Tomb Mind, this malfunction goes unnoticed. Thus, every 33 solar weeks, another legion of immortals embarks on their perilous journey into the unknown. The Necrons of Trakon awoke in the early 41st millennium, but did not shake off their hibernation-induced disorientation for nearly 5 centuries. This delay allowed their tomb world to attract the attention of the tech priests from a neighboring Adeptus Mechanicus Forge world, and the internal struggle to regain consciousness quickly overlapped with conflicts against the Imperium of Man. Now that the siege has ended, Trakon's armies have expelled the humans from their planet and begun searching for other tomb worlds of their dynasty. Unfortunately, they have been unable to make contact with any of them and must now assume that the records of old do not reflect the current reality of the galaxy. In reality, this assumption is only partially correct. The missing Divanak tomb worlds were actually consumed and destroyed by a warp storm thousands of Terran years before Trakon emerged from the Great Sleep. Unaware of this, the nobles of Trakon continue their futile search to this day. The Necron nobles of Zantragora have a singular overriding objective: apotheosis. They seek to undo the curse of soullessness imposed by biotransference by transferring their consciousness into the bodies of other sentient beings. Their belief in the possibility of such a transformation is rooted in the final command of the Silent King and ancient prophecies from the time of the Great Sleep. However, these prophecies lacked specifics, leaving it unclear whether they need to inhabit other organic bodies or create new ones from Necrontyr genetic material. To achieve this, the legions and fleets of Zantragora scour the galaxy for new subjects, following strict search patterns to ensure no potential candidate world is missed. From each inhabited planet within their search patterns, hundreds of thousands of samples, both living and deceased, are collected. These individuals are placed in stasis and transported back to Zantragora, where they undergo a relentless series of autopsies, gene splicing, tissue mutation, and molecular deconstruction. Progress has been agonizingly slow, with each advance marked by the suffering of the lesser species. Resting deep within the core of their tomb worlds, the Necrons have lain dormant for over 60 million Terran years. Scattered Necron raiding parties signaled the race's return to activity in the 41st millennium. Now, with their ancient star gods, the Catan, awakening with a renewed hunger for life energy, the Necrontyr have re-emerged to reclaim the galaxy. Each Necron tomb world follows a complex blueprint created by the Necrontyr during their civilization's peak. Employing physical principles and technologies long forgotten by other intelligent species, the Necrons constructed vast subterranean vaults to house their race during their extended period of inactivity. By harnessing their advanced understanding of interdimensional geometry, the Necrons designed colossal chambers capable of accommodating tens of thousands of their kind, with interiors that defy spatial limitations. Beneath these pyramidal structures, the Necrons stored their formidable weaponry and installed powerful temporal stabilizers that functioned like stasis fields, protecting their warriors and their devastating arms from the ravages of time. Upon reactivation, each tomb world awakens its inhabitants through a fixed, predictable algorithmic sequence, as certain as the eventual dying of the stars. Initially, swarms of robotic Canoptek scarabs and Canoptek spiders emerge to address the basic needs of the stasis tombs. Shortly thereafter, the mindless Necron warriors are revived and dispatched on reconnaissance missions around their tombs. The intelligence gathered by these scouting Necron warriors is processed by the tomb world's automated systems, its tomb mind or deep spirit, which then evaluates the current state of its environment. Based on ancient preset algorithms, the tomb world subsequently activates other Necron machinery and weaponry as required. The Necron overlord or lords present on the tomb world are imbued with this information and programmed with data to develop artificial personalities, enabling them to fulfill the specific goals of the tomb world and make autonomous decisions upon awakening. Sometimes, a large population center of a younger race, typically humanity, may have settled on a tomb world without realizing its true nature. In such cases, the tomb world's master programming responds with extreme aggression to protect its dormant inhabitants. These tomb worlds have reactivated with particular speed during the current resurgence of the Necrons and are now bustling centers of activity for the undying race. As their automated systems delve deeper into their archives and inventory, those tomb worlds whose domains have been encroached upon by younger races are preparing for what will eventually become a comprehensive retaliatory campaign against the Imperium of Man and any other organized force opposing the Necrons. Imperial scholars have termed this programmed behavior pattern the Harvest. When it unfolds, it will result in a genocidal event comparable to the War in Heaven waged against the Old Ones millions of Terran years ago. Necron tomb worlds seem to lack a permanent organization or command structure, and the interactions among their various forces remain largely opaque to Imperial scholars. The Necrons' method of warfare resembles a continuous causal process, where each battle, campaign, and harvest triggers predetermined responses from the tomb world's controlling program. This dynamic structure is facilitated by a system akin to the most intricate constructs of the Adeptus Mechanicus, known as Nodal command. The Nodal command system assigns a strict hierarchy within its framework. It allocates greater operational and decision-making authority to specific nodes, while the remainder of the system operates under the autonomous commands of these nodes. In this hierarchy, Necron overlords and lords act as the nodes, each holding a specific hierarchical value at any given moment. While the Adeptus Mechanicus can only speculate about the precise workings of the Nodal command system, they have identified at least 4 levels of hierarchy, which they refer to as bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, in ascending order of command priority. The Nodal command system also serves as a communication network, forming the basis for gathering intelligence and issuing orders to the appropriate Necron units. It is often compared to the ancient flowcharts used to design cogitator algorithms during the Age of Technology. Decisions made by a higher-level Necron overlord, such as a gold level, result in a swift, singular response. Relevant data and orders are then automatically disseminated to subordinate lords, those of the silver and bronze levels, under the gold level commander. When swift responses are less critical and comprehensive data processing is needed, decision-making can be distributed among several bronze or silver level lords, and even down to individual Necron warriors at times during combat. This structure allows for extensive coordination when necessary, while still permitting independent actions by distant combat groups if required. No encounter with the Platinum-level Necron Lord has been documented by Imperial forces. Speculation among scholars suggests that such a high-ranking Necron Lord would command vast fleets capable of conquering large sections of the galaxy. Such a force could be virtually unstoppable. After numerous engagements with the Necrons, it is evident to Imperial savants that as conflicts escalate, a tomb world will temporarily withdraw its existing forces and then deploy a new, more formidable army under an expanded Nodal command. Essentially, the more a foe escalates their response to Necron forces, the more devastating the Necron counteroffensive becomes. Typically, only a few Necron warriors and specialized support units like destroyers or wraiths are deployed against emerging threats. However, as resistance increases, the strength of the forces released by the Tomb World's autonomous systems will grow proportionally, resulting in a level of destructive power that could surpass any adversary humanity has ever faced, including the Tyrannids and even Chaos. Endless ranks of Necron warriors will be transported into battle by newly awakened monoliths, while Immortals and Destroyers will attack in relentless waves. Behind the front lines, Flayed Ones and Wraiths will terrorize civilian populations and undermine morale. Many Imperial savants believe that some tomb worlds may still possess a range of units more powerful and destructive than the Necron warriors and monoliths currently encountered by the Imperium's defenders. Only an escalation of combat to unprecedented levels will reveal these hidden units. The mind shudders at the thought of what horrific machines the Necrons might unleash upon an unsuspecting galaxy once this unknown threshold is crossed in the near future. The lifeless dead worlds surrounding many current tomb worlds may well be a testament to the grim fate of those who dare to oppose the undying Necrons. The Necrons, having long been devoid of any spiritual essence, cannot tap into the warp or harness its energies in any way. They lack the ability to traverse the galaxy through the warp and have no native psykers among them. This limitation, however, is a double-edged sword. While being free from the unpredictable dangers of the warp is advantageous, it also leaves them vulnerable against entities for whom sorcery is as integral to warfare as conventional weapons. Without their own psykers to counteract enemy sorcery, the Necrons face significant challenges. To mitigate this, many Necron tomb worlds are shielded by massive Null field matrices. Developed during the War in Heaven, these systems consist of anti-psychic field emitters that create an energy field disrupting a psyker's connection to the warp, thereby impeding their ability to fully utilize their powers. Demons also struggle in the presence of Null field matrices, often flickering in and out of reality due to their unstable hold in the material realm. In the 41st millennium, the Null field matrix has also been shown to negatively impact the Tyrannids. The hive mind's usual resilience to psychic interference is further compromised by the effects of the Null field matrix. Unfortunately for the Necrons, these defenses are not foolproof. Null field matrices require enormous amounts of power and are delicate devices that must be concealed within the core of a tomb world to avoid destruction. Nevertheless, they exemplify the Necrons' capability to develop advanced technological defenses against various threats. This technology was also a precursor to the Necrons' ambitious yet unfinished great work, the construction of anti-psychic blackstone pylons on Cadia and other worlds intended to permanently sever all inhabitants of real space from the warp. Fortunately for the galaxy's psykers, the Necrons entered the Great Sleep before this project was completed. However, it is possible that the pharaons of more active dynasties might seek to revive this endeavor. Necrons are tall, skeletal beings made from a living metal called necrodermis. This material provides superior protection in battle and can repair itself if damaged, allowing even heavily damaged Necrons to return to combat. A notable feature of the Necrons is their ability to vanish from the battlefield when a fight turns against them, utilizing unknown phase technology. This phenomenon includes even dead Necrons, those not yet repaired, and those engaged in close combat. As a result, enemy forces, including the Imperium, have struggled to recover Necron artifacts or corpses for study. The Catan or Necron star gods, referred to as the Ingir in the Aeldari lexicon, are considered some of the oldest sentient beings in the Milky Way galaxy. Believed to have been created at the universe's dawn from swirling gases and immense energy, they are inherently etheric beings. In their natural state, they are colossal entities that spread across the surface of a star, absorbing its solar energy for sustenance. Eventually, they developed the ability to use gossamer wings to travel to other stars once their host star expired. The surrounding matter was too insubstantial to satisfy their hunger. They can only interact with the physical realm through necrontier technology, which transferred their consciousness into necrodermis bodies. The Catan leveraged the necrontier's animosity towards the Old Ones to assist in harvesting the life energy they craved. The Catan were responsible for designing the biotransference process for the necrontier, transferring their protégés' consciousnesses into eternal mechanical bodies made of necrodermis. This process, however, also transformed the necrontier into the Necrons, soulless entities who struggle to find joy and cannot truly relish their immortality. Following their victory in the war in heaven against the Old Ones, the Necrons, led by the silent King Zarek, succeeded in overthrowing their Catan overlords. The surviving Catan were shattered into fragments known as Catan shards, which were imprisoned in intricate Necron devices called tesseract labyrinths. Since the Great Awakening of the Necrons in the mid-41 Cent Millennium, these Catan shards are summoned as potent weapons by the Necron dynasties when needed. However, there remains a constant risk of these imprisoned Catan escaping their confines, which could lead to catastrophic vengeance against their captors and the innocent. A Catan shard is all that remains of the once mighty star gods of the Necrons. Now only echoes of their former selves, these fragments of energy were enslaved after surviving their former servants' betrayal. Most of them are now bound in servitude to their Necron masters, unable to act without orders. If a Catan shard rebels, or if a malfunction occurs in its control systems, fail-safe mechanisms activate, transporting the shard back to its tomb. There, it remains dormant for centuries, until the Necrons face a crisis severe enough to necessitate its return. Even with these precautions, the Necrons are cautious about deploying Catan shards in battle. The risk of escape, while low, remains a concern, and the tesseract labyrinths are only opened in dire circumstances. Even in their diminished and restrained state, Catan shards possess immense power. They can unleash energy blasts, control minds, manipulate time, and banish foes to other dimensions. Their abilities are constrained only by their imagination and fragmented memories of their former selves. Although no single Catan shard recalls the full extent of its former omnipotence, each retains the personality and arrogance of its previous, more powerful incarnation. A Catan shard might have the capability to reduce a tank to molten slag with a mere gesture, but it might not consider this action due to its inherent nature, which might prompt it to handle situations differently. The only way to defeat a Catan shard is to breach its necrodermis shell. If the necrodermis is compromised, the shard erupts in a burst of intense energy, scattering its essence into the cosmic void. While many Catan shards are bound to Necron service, not all of them are accounted for. There are rumors of Catan-like entities across the galaxy, though many are simply beings with unexplained reality-warping abilities. Any such entity, be it a warp-spawned demon, energy-based lifeform, or advanced alien, might be mistaken for a Catan by those lacking knowledge or understanding. This confusion leads to widespread uncertainty about the true number and nature of the surviving Catan, even among the Aeldari. Records from the Black Library, Ulthwé and Alatok present conflicting information. The current number of Catan might be 4,000, or any figure in between. The Aeldari agree that the Imperium of Man's fragmented and erroneous understanding of the Catan only strays further from the truth with each new discovery. The search for evidence of a Catan's existence often reflects more about the searcher's mindset than the veracity of the evidence. Transcendent Catan are the most formidable among the Catan shards. Each is an amalgamation of numerous lesser Catan shards, and their power far exceeds the sum of their parts. Those few bound to Necron service are contained not by tesseract labyrinths, but by ancient energy shackles designed by the renowned Necron artificer Svarok. These devices are unstable, making the deployment of a transcendent Catan without a Tesseract Vault risky and reserved for the direst situations. When contained within a Tesseract Vault, a transcendent Catan is also protected by an energy shield generated by a Canoptek Sentinel. Canoptek Sentinels manage the raw elemental energies of a transcendent Catan, using the Catan's own power to create a force shield strong enough to keep it bound within the Tesseract Vault. The known Catan include a Zergorod the Nightbringer. Known for instilling fear akin to the Grim Reaper, a Zergorod was nearly destroyed and starved before being accidentally released by Space Marines in the 41st millennium. This event contributed to the Necron's Great Awakening. The Nightbringer is one of the 2 Catan shards encountered by Necron adversaries since their awakening. Mephetran the Deceiver. Having emerged from stasis some time ago, Mephetran has been orchestrating schemes including the destruction of the Old One's weapons, the talismans of Vol and Blackstone fortresses. The Deceiver is the other Catan shard encountered by Necron foes since their Great Awakening. Magladroth the Void Dragon. The most potent Catan, Magladroth remains in stasis, presumed to be beneath Mars in the Noctis Labyrinthus. Some tech priests speculate that it might be the machine god worshipped by the Adeptus Mechanicus. This Catan was a figure of oblivion and destruction, with its warriors nearly invincible. Among the Necron hierarchy, the Necron Overlord stands out as the most formidable and menacing. Commanding countless legions of Necron warriors, formidable war machines, and an array of devastating weaponry capable of obliterating entire worlds, the Overlord marches into battle with absolute confidence. He has meticulously calculated every possible outcome and devised strategies to ensure the success of his campaigns. Only the most improbable circumstances can outmaneuver him, and only the most formidable adversaries stand a chance against him in combat. His enemies' weapons either deflect off his armor or pass through him as he utilizes Necron phase-shifting technology. In contrast, his own assaults are ruthlessly precise, as he cleaves heads, shatters armor, and pulverizes foes with each strike of his ancient blade. Should a Necron Overlord ascend to the rank of Pharaon, commanding an entire sector, few could match his overwhelming strength. The Necron Lord, a distinguished member of the Necron race, serves as both the commander and the energy source for the larger Necron armies composed of standard Necron warriors. When the Necron tier abandoned their organic forms to serve the Catan, they transferred their consciousnesses into bodies made of necrodermis. Over time, however, these mechanical bodies dulled their minds and erased their capacity for emotion or pleasure. As the millennia passed, this gradual desensitization resulted in the Necrons becoming soulless warriors enslaved by the Catan, harvesting intelligent life from across the galaxy to feed their insatiable masters. Only the most powerful and resolute of the Necron nobility, known as Necron Lords, managed to retain their full sentience amidst the growing numbness. A Necron Lord is a high-ranking member within a Necron Dynasties hierarchy, typically assigned control over a legion of Necrons by the Pharaon, or his own overlord. Adorned in ancient, deteriorated robes and wielding arcane staff weapons, the Necron Lord presents a chilling presence on the battlefield. Their weathered metallic bodies bear the marks of age, and they exude the accumulated power of countless millennia. With each silent movement, arcs of green energy encircle them as their vacant eye sockets blaze with a soulless flame. Cryptechs are the Necron race's technologists and engineers responsible for maintaining and studying Necron technology. Their abilities mirror those of psychers found among other intelligent species. However, instead of channeling warp energies, Cryptechs use their advanced scientific knowledge to manipulate fundamental forces and achieve seemingly magical effects. Masters of dimensional manipulation, singularity control, atomic transmutation, and various other arcane technologies, Cryptechs perform feats that appear magical to less advanced races. They can transmute enemies into liquid adamantium, transform them into stardust, ignite the air, or summon bolts of lightning. This extraordinary technological prowess is highly valued by Necron overlords who meet the demands of Cryptechs to secure their services. A Necron Destroyer Lord is a sentient elite member of the Necron race, typically a former Necron Lord or Overlord, who has succumbed to the madness of the destroyers. Even the Necron nobility are not immune to the insanity that afflicts destroyer lords. Ironically, the extent of this threat is not fully known to the Imperium because these destroyer lords are so effectively named. The atrocities they commit are known only by those who have perished, leaving the true extent of their menace to be speculated. Unlike other Necron lords, destroyer lords embrace extreme modifications to their bodies and minds to fulfill their purpose of purging all life from the stars. While they often replace their legs with anti-gravitic suspensor platforms, destroyer lords typically forego ranged weaponry for melee weapons. The war scythe is a favored weapon, allowing a destroyer lord to maximize its reach while hovering above enemies. Curiously, destroyer lords forgo the ornate finery typical of Necron royalty. Whether this reflects their obsessive focus, is a deliberate choice, or simply a matter of practicality is uncertain. Destroyer lords are shunned by their former peers and are disinclined to engage in conversation, except when seeking potential targets. Necron Deathmarks are elite snipers and assassins within the Necron forces, known for their ability to appear seemingly out of nowhere and strike with deadly accuracy. The moniker Deathmark is apt, as once a Deathmark designates a target with their hunter's mark, the target is almost certainly doomed to die within moments. Much like other Necrons, Deathmarks possess technology that surpasses human understanding, allowing them to phase in and out of normal space-time at will. To their victims, it seems as though they have been ambushed or teleported onto the battlefield. In truth, Deathmarks are already present, existing out of phase and waiting for the perfect moment to eliminate their targets. Few commanders who encounter Deathmarks survive to tell the tale. Deathmarks bear a resemblance to Necron immortals in the quality of their mechanical bodies, but are distinct due to a prominent green glowing eye and the arcane orbs projecting from their spines. These orbs emit an eerie light when a Deathmark uses their occult powers to mark a target. In their role, Deathmarks exhibit a level of stealth almost unparalleled among the Necron ranks. Moving with the eerie silence characteristic of Necron legions, Deathmarks can be surprisingly stealthy despite their slow, deliberate motions. Triarch Praetorians, charged with ensuring the Necron dynasties remain unshaken, were tasked with upholding the Triarch's rule and enforcing ancient codes in both war and politics. Acting independently of political structures, they had the authority and capability to act against any lord, overlord, or even a pharaoh who defied the old edicts. During the War in Heaven, the Triarch Praetorians fought valiantly but ultimately in vain. When the Necron race entered hibernation over 60 million Terran years ago, the Praetorians chose to remain awake. As the Necrons awaken in the galaxy once more, the Triarch Praetorians have re-emerged to serve the Necron Lord's dynastic legions. They typically avoid joining battles immediately, preferring to hover above the conflict with gravity displacement packs before diving into the heart of enemy forces. Armed with the devastating Rod of Covenant, a Triarch Praetorian's assault leaves little that can survive. Necron Lichguard are the elite protectors and envoys of Necron nobility. Gifted with high-quality living metal bodies, Lichguards are as resilient and powerful as the lords and overlords they defend. They not only serve as guardians, but also act as messengers and envoys for their masters. Through the biotransference process, Lichguards preserve more of their personality and intellect compared to rank-and-file Necrons. Like other Necrons, Lichguards fulfill their roles in undeath as they did in life, with their capacity for disobedience removed. Necron lords and overlords of the 41st millennium need not fear betrayal from these loyal guardians who serve as the final defense against rival nobles' schemes. Lichguards are notably taller and broader than Necron warriors, with broad shoulder blades and a pronounced spine. Reflecting their status, they are often adorned with decorative headgear and segmented metal tabards, typically wielding war scythes, massive polearms with advanced power fields. Lichguards can cleave even armored Adeptus Astartes warriors in half. Some also carry hyperphase swords and dispersion shields, offering slightly less power but greater protection. Pariahs are the result of a horrific fusion of Necron technology and human evolution, Created from humans possessing the pariah gene, which severs their psyche from the warp, they are soulless and immune to psychic abilities. Despite their immunity, pariahs do not thrive due to the animosity and fear they provoke, leaving them isolated and with many enemies. Rare in the galaxy, as only a single individual on a world might carry the gene in each generation, pariahs are used by the Inquisition and the Ordo Hereticus against witches and renegade psykers. Their soullessness also renders them fearless. Necron pariahs, former humans bearing the pariah gene, are encased in cybernetic bodies of necrodermis, and their minds are enslaved like other Necron warriors, losing their ability to feel emotion or pleasure. Their extreme psychic dampening effect is deadly to psykers, and they wield spear-like war scythes equipped with Gauss blasters, making them formidable opponents. The unnatural aura they emit, due to their soullessness, can incapacitate psykers and unnerve their enemies. Flayed Ones are grotesque, infected horrors who act as specialized close combat troops for the Necrons. Emerging from an unknown dimension, these creatures were once Necrontyr, who retained some consciousness when transferred into necrodermis bodies, but were afflicted by a disease that instilled an insatiable hunger for flesh, driving them to madness. They excel at infiltrating enemy lines and spreading terror, wielding flensing blades that can flay a person alive in moments. Thin and wiry, they often adorn themselves with the skin and hide of their victims, leaving skinned corpses to instill fear and confusion. Flayed Ones are a terrifying sight, causing enemy combatants to lose their composure upon seeing remnants of their fallen comrades. In addition to their wicked claws, some utilize Necron disruption field technology, enabling them to tear apart even armored vehicles. The Tombstalker is a colossal Necron construct that serves as a sentinel on Necron tomb worlds, comparable in stature to a smaller Imperial battle titan. During their extended periods of inactivity, the Necrons left their crypts protected by these ceaseless silent machines, with the Tombstalker being the most formidable among them known to humanity. This enormous, centipede-like robot, encased in a living metal carapace, is a formidable presence, with its numerous flashing legs and a malevolent will. As large as a dozen men, the Tombstalker employs advanced phase generators, enabling it to traverse through solid ground and stalk its tomb world while its Necron lords slumber. It uses its acute senses to detect prey from kilometers away, capable of sensing a panicked heartbeat through hundreds of meters of solid stone. Its vast size and the regenerative properties of its necrodermis armor make it nearly indestructible. Unlike the more common Necron warriors, these insectoid constructs continue to fight with fierce determination despite damage or dismemberment. Their segmented bodies naturally reassemble when the pieces come back together, making them a persistent and terrifying foe. Necron warriors are the primary infantry of the Necrons, created from the majority of the Necrontyr, who agreed to bind themselves to their star gods, the Catan. Their consciousnesses were transferred into robotic bodies made of living metal, necrodermis. Over time, these bodies dulled the Necrontyr's minds, erasing their ability to experience emotion or pleasure. As a result, the Necrontyr became soulless automatons, the warrior slaves of the Catan, who scour the galaxy for souls to satisfy their masters' insatiable hunger for living energy. In battle, the sheer numbers and firepower of Necron warriors overwhelm their enemies before retreating to their tomb complexes to await the next summons from their Necron lords. The skeletal forms of Necron warriors are unnerving, as kinetic projectiles and lasblasts bounce off their metallic limbs with ease. Their Gauss flares are particularly horrifying, reducing targets to atoms by dissolving flesh and muscle instantly and then disintegrating bone until nothing remains. Necron immortals are favoured Necrontyr who were among the first to embrace necrodermis and the Catan gods. For their service, they were granted the status of immortals. In life, immortals were elite soldiers of the Necrontyr Empire, and in death, they surpass warriors in almost every aspect. With even more resilient frames, Necron immortals are nearly impervious to small arms fire. Their combat training and experience remained intact through the biotransference process, and they seem to retain a sharper intellect focused on warfare compared to their less esteemed counterparts. Outside combat, however, immortals exhibit little personality. resembling monotask servitors. They are typically armed with Gauss blasters, which are more lethal than the Gauss flares used by warriors. The Canoptek Wraith is a sophisticated unit within the Necron forces, patrolling the tombs of Necron tomb worlds. These eerie floating entities lack legs or bodies apart from a serpentine spinal column and use anti-gravity technology to glide silently through the vast corridors of their domains. With wide, hunched shoulders, a grinning skullface and long, whip-like arms equipped with necrodermis scalpel blades and other surgical tools, Canoptek Wraiths are formidable in close combat. Their most fearsome feature is the advanced phase shifter within their durable frame, which allows them to selectively phase parts of their body to avoid damage or bypass armor to attack enemies. This phase-shifting ability, similar to the Necron phasing technology used for galactic travel, allows Wraiths to avoid physical harm from weapons and even move through solid objects. Some Imperial scholars speculate that Wraiths were once Necron-tier murderers and psychopaths before their entombment in metallic bodies.